You're listening to The Manning Report with your host, James David Manning. The news behind the headlines.
Got a lot to temperature rose in Washington yesterday like you won't believe. Judge Mehta signed an order on a 41-page, I got it right here, 41-page response and answer regarding the Elijah Cummings Oversight Committee asking the Mehta company, that is an accounting firm that handles Trump's accounting and also got all of his taxes. Elijah Cummings, chairman of the Oversight Committee, subpoenaed those records, and the judge said that Trump got to hand them over, that the firm got to hand them over. But so listen, the judge, this is a very carefully read statement incorporating in the judge's decision, this 41-page decision and answer. It incorporates Watergate in the process. It incorporates Whitewater in the process. And it has as a conclusion, there's some very powerful words denying Tribulation Trump the continued obfuscation of not showing his tax returns. A lot of people, were wondering if the accounting firm has Trump's tax return. Of course they do. They keep records. They have to file his taxes. They're the one that does. So Elijah Cummings may be the first one to get Trump's tax return. And of course, this court order, this 41-page decision says that the Mehta accounting firm, Trump's accounting firm, must comply within 6 days. The clock started ticking on yesterday. We're down to 5 days. But we understand also that the Trump lawyers have gone into court this morning and filed an appeal, which effectively puts a temporary stay on the judge's order that those tax terms, that accounting firm released Trump's accounting and tax and financial information. So that's where that's at present. So the question is, how long will it be before the appellate court renders a decision about whether or not the judge's ruling shall stand or whether it shall be struck out? I don't think the federal appellate court is going to strike this. This thing is too well written. It is tighter than a boat. It is really, really tight, tighter than Noah's Ark. So, but it could delay the process now, because the appellate court could drag this out another 3-4 months before they reach a decision. And while they're doing that, the stay is in place. So we still may not see Trump's tax returns right away. But one thing I think is abundantly clear is that it has been ruled that Trump cannot obfuscate the way he's doing by denying subpoenas. Now, Judge Ramos here in New York, there's a case before him that should be appearing this week as well, where the New York Department of Southern District have asked for the Deutsche Bank's filings and loan applications and other financial information that the Deutsche Bank has on Tribulation Trump. And that ruling should come down this week for Judge Ramos in the federal court here in New York City. And so we're going to see how that rules. And I suppose that this 41-page, I haven't read the entire thing, but I'm going to read it because I want to be familiar with the law's structure in it, because this is a historical piece, very well written and handed down in 6 days. This will probably be the guiding thesis, because Trump is alleging that, because of executive privilege, he can just kind of be above the law. But his tax returns have nothing to do. The judge writes in here that the Oversight Committee, Congress, the third branch of government, has the oversight of the presidency, and that they can request information about Trump before he became president, while he's president, etc. So, and that's how it's always been until Trump came along and tried to change the game. We all know it's not a sustainable argument. It's just not a sustainable position. Not even Trump believes it's a sustainable position. What Trump believes is that he can run out the clock, that he can keep obfuscating and denying subpoenas and giving across the board denial of everything that the Congress asked for. Because, when the Republicans were in control there at the Congress, they did not take any oversight, nor did they question anything that Trump did, whether it was the emolument clauses or whether he gave Jared, his son-in-law, special clearances, when the security people told him that Jared was not fit to receive special clearances, or whether or not the investigations that have gone on into the Mueller investigations, whether that can be released, or whether John McGahn can testify, where Robert Mueller can testify. Trump has said nobody speaks. And at that point, Trump became a sort of a god. Because you just don't run a government like that. You just don't run a government where we don't have kings. We don't have monarchies. And then the argument that Trump used, or his lawyers used, was that the process that the Oversight Committee, or the Dems or Democrats in the Congress now under Nancy Pelosi's control, Gerald Nadler, Adam Schiff, and Elijah Cummings, and Maxine Waters, and others, had no legislative purposes for seeking such information. But the judge ruled that investigations can lead to legislative purposes. And so I think this is going to be the ruling. This is going to be the ruling order here. For all of what Trump is up against. But again, I would caution that it's probably going to be a little while before we actually see the returns, but we're going to see them. We're probably going to see them before the end of the summer. And what does that mean, and what does it portend once we start looking at Trump's tax returns? The Deutsche Bank is going to have to give up information as well. The Deutsche Bank has paid out over $600 million in fines to the American government, and not to mention that they operate in other nations, for money laundering or perceived money laundering. And no bank for 25 years, and this is the thing I think that every person that's of a reasonable mindset ought to have in their hopper. No bank for 25 years would give Trump a loan. Not one bank, because they knew how terribly dishonest he was. He had been a repeated bank fraud, a bank failure, bankruptcy king. And so no bank would give, except Deutsche Bank continued to give him money. Deutsche Bank has long since been suspected as a money laundering for the oligarchs who've taken all that money out of Russia, all that money from the poor people of Russia, and buying themselves $40 million and $100 million estates here in America. And the Deutsche Bank has been washing that money. That's how they make their money. So I think they're going to hand over their records. Some of those records have already been handed over. But at least it's on. The court battles are now on, and we're going to see how far this is going to take us in terms of what information we're going to be able to decipher from Trump's tax returns, and what does that mean. Trump doesn't want anybody to see his tax returns. He doesn't want that. And I think that, once we see that, if those tax returns are ever released, and we don't know, another Judge Mehta gave a decision, a 41-page decision in 6 days. I don't know who was the federal appellate court judge. He may, drag his feet on this matter. One of the things I think you have to keep in consideration, a lot of people, and while I've railed against the established order of Republicans, the J5 white boys, I've railed against them profusely and powerfully for their enabling Trump and his criminal. Trump is a criminal. He's always been one. He's a con man. He's always been one. Here in New York, and I've told people across America, 3 years before Trump got elected illegally to be president, everybody in West Virginia, everybody in Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, Texas, Montana, Indiana, Ohio, everybody down there would not have spit on Trump, because they knew he was a New York playboy, a hustler, a con man. They all knew that. They all knew it. That is who he was. So, but now they made him king and made him God. But we'll see how far this is all going to go. But I tell you this, I don't know how long this thing is going to drag out. But I think we're going to see those taxes by the end of the summer. I think we're going to see him. I think we're going to see Trump's finance. We're going to see Trump's, that he really isn't as wealthy as he says he is. But moreover, will impeachment processes get started? Will Nancy Pelosi start impeachment? Well, I think if we see the Deutsche Bank's financial filings with Trump, if Don McGahn, who I think will probably have to appear before the Senate Judiciary Committee, but before the end of the summer, by midsummer, by July, I think Don McGahn's going to be sitting there testifying before the world that Trump told him to obstruct justice, that Trump told him to fire Robert Mueller. I think once that happens, we're going to see a turn in the blind faith that has been afforded Trump all these years. And I understand clearly. In another segment, in the second half of the broadcast today, I'm going to be dealing with calling for help because the LGBT community are attacking me. We want to help Chick-fil-A. They're attacking them. They've been attacking them for years. And so, when you can get somebody to say, well, because what the LGBT community is doing to me up here in Harlem, man, it just ain't even, it ain't even the things that usually get flushed down the toilet don't want to have anything to do with what these LGBT people are doing to me up here in Harlem. So when you get somebody who can help you fight, you kind of look the other way. And I think it's what a lot of people have done with Trump. But we're going to hear Don McGahn, we're going to hear Robert Mueller. It's going to be a hot summer. It's going to be a hot July across America and across the world. It's going to be hot. When Don McGahn testifies and Robert Mueller testifies, it's going to get hot. And Don McGahn's going to have to testify because potentially he could lose his law license. Same thing with Jay Sekulow, who we got late-breaking news on yesterday, that Jay Sekulow, Michael Cohen testified before the Senate committee that Jay Sekulow informed him to back down the time from June of 2015 to January of 2016. From June of 2016 to January of 2016 as the time at which Trump was proposing to build a Trump Tower in Moscow. And Trump got on the air and said that in the campaign he had no dealings with Russia, he had no business in Russia, he had no buildings in Russia, he had nothing in Russia, while at the same time Michael Cohen was negotiating behind the scenes with the Russian oligarchs to build a Trump Tower in Russia. And Jay Sekulow told Michael Cohen, walk it back. Say that it didn't. The process started and stopped in January of 2016, when actually it didn't stop until June of 2016. So Jay Sekulow could very well be on the hot seat for losing his law license if what Michael Cohen has said regarding him being asked to lie before Congress can be corroborated. This is a bit of a news blog we do, looking at spiritual wickedness in high places for the most part, making some observations about it and giving people a biblical foundation to the way of interpreting, rather than have Sean Hannity or Laura Ingraham or Janine Pirro or Anderson Cooper or Rachel Maddow or Don Lemon, Rush Limbaugh interpret what's going on in the world. You come to me and I'll tell you based on what the Word of God says. They'll just give you their worldly, sinful view. But the Manning Report will tell you what God has said, whether to say yea or nay, whether to go or to stay. You'll be led by the word of Almighty God. Come to the Manning Report on a daily basis to interpret the spiritual wickedness in high places, because there's plenty of it that's going on. And so I'm the Lord's servant, James David Righteous Rebel Manning, and I'm here to serve you with news and information.